Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? The first thing I want to say is congratulations to Manny Pacquiao for proving to all of us that he is still the same Manny Pacquiao that he was before he got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say that the punch that knocked out Manny Pacquiao was a lucky punch, but I will say that it was a perfectly timed punch that basically just proved that that one punch basically was a lifesaver for Juan Manuel Marquez. Because as we all know, Marquez, he was struggling at that point in the fight, and he was basically in danger of getting stopped himself, and that's the reason why Manny Pacquiao got a little reckless, careless, and ended up getting caught with something. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about what took place tonight. Manny Pacquiao versus Brandon Rios. You know, it's always interesting to see how a fighter who has never been on the biggest stage will make that transition from undercard fighter, boxing after dark fighter, to all of a sudden being thrown on the biggest stage that you could ever possibly imagine. Okay? And I think Brandon Rios, he looking at him coming into the ring, his ring entrance, the first round, it seemed like Brandon Rios was extremely nervous, had a lot of butterflies. This is something that we always hear Floyd Mayweather say when he's fighting against one of his opponents and they've never fought on a pay-per-view or a huge, big pay-per-view fight before. He always says things are different when you reach this level. Things are different when you're fighting on this level. The big stage, the big lights, it could really affect you and alter the way that you perform. And I think that's, like I said, what we've seen with Brandon Rios in the first couple of rounds. And like I said, this is what I love about the sport of boxing. You just never know what you're going to get. You always see something different, all right? It may not be a major difference, but it's little subtle differences. Like you take Brandon Rios, for example. Usually when the first bell of the fight rings, Brandon Rios is basically charging after you. All right? He's charging after you. He's already ready to go. All of a sudden, for the first time, we see Brandon Rios start off the fight backing up a little bit, trying to throw jabs, trying to land jabs. All right? And I thought that was really interesting. And that's when I seen that, I said, oh, wait a minute. This fight is going to be pretty competitive. Because even though Brandon Rios is not the smartest fighter, he's in there actually trying to use his brains. All right? And that's basically how it looked in the first 6 rounds. Brandon Rios, he started off slow. Manny Pacquiao, to his credit, he started off pretty fast. Manny was trying to send a powerful message to let Brandon Rios know that he is now in the big leagues. Okay? This ain't boxing after dark undercard shit no more. This is the real thing. And like I said, I think it worked. I really think it worked. But Brandon Rios, he started to warm up. And, that train started to move a little bit faster as he started to warm up. It's interesting because if you watch the first 6 rounds, I started to see somewhat of a progression to where Brandon Rios was getting more comfortable and, the fight was starting to look a lot more competitive. And I think I said around the 5th round, I said to myself, if this fight continues to go this way, then this is going to be one of them situations where if Manny Pacquiao doesn't get Brandon Rios out early, he may have some serious problems in the later rounds because it looked like in those earlier rounds that Brandon Rios was going to basically be an enclosing wall that just constantly keeps coming forward no matter what you throw at him. But that wasn't the case anymore, I should say, after round about 7 or 8, because that's when I believe that Manny Pacquiao caught Brandon with some of the most vicious combinations, and that completely discouraged Brandon Rios. So for the first time in Brandon Rios' entire career, I believe we've seen one of the most aggressive fighters, which his best weapon is to throw volumes of punches basically have that weapon negated to where he wasn't really throwing any punches at all. Okay? Like I said, in the first 3 or 4 rounds, if you looked at the punch stats that they put up on HBO, they basically had both fighters landing around the same amount of punches. One was 17 landed, one was 16 landed. Now, when it comes to punches being landed, I think it's very important to note that in those first couple of rounds, Brandon Rios, he was landing a lot of punches on Manny Pacquiao. More than Manny Pacquiao was supposed to receive. Okay? Manny Pacquiao is not supposed to get hit this much against a brawler. Like I told you guys on many different occasions, Manny Pacquiao is another one of these fighters that cannot fight on the inside. If you go back and you watch the fight, you will see that Manny Pacquiao was constantly holding one of Brandon Rios' arms throughout the fight because Manny Pacquiao is completely uncomfortable fighting on the inside. Rios caught Manny Pacquiao with some excellent uppercuts, hooks, stiff jabs. I don't recall him landing too many right hands, but basically, like I said, hooks, stiff jabs, and uppercuts were the main punches that Brandon Rios was landing on Manny Pacquiao. In fact, Brandon Rios landed so many clean punches that Manny Pacquiao, he made an admission at the end of the fight, and he said that Brandon Rios hurt him pretty bad from the way Manny Pacquiao explained it. Manny Pacquiao has tremendous natural athleticism and ability. Okay, he has great angles. He has great foot speed, hand speed, agility, and power. But his main weakness is his lack of inside fighting and his lack of defense in general. But when Manny Pacquiao is in there with a fighter that is kind of tailor made for his style, he can take advantage of the natural abilities that he has, and he won't really have to pay a big fine when it comes to his lack of defense, his lack of inside fighting. In other words, his flaws. All right? Brandon Rios was a tough opponent when it comes to Manny Pacquiao or for Manny Pacquiao. But at the same time, Manny Pacquiao, he was able to neutralize a lot of what Brandon Rios was trying to do. He basically stopped Brandon Rios right in his tracks somewhere in the middle half of this fight because Brandon Rios was starting to do better and better as the rounds went on. All right, but I truly believe that Manny Pacquiao, he caught Rios with one of those combinations that end up really hurting Brandon Rios, and it put the fear inside of him to where Brandon Rios, basically said, I'm not going to get knocked out. So what he did is he basically pulled an Oscar De La Hoya against Manny Pacquiao, which is he just stopped punching because he didn't want to take the chance of being knocked out. He just wanted to stay there and just block the shots and try to survive the 12-round fight. Now, of course, someone like Brandon Rios, who has to stick to the tough guy code, basically said that it was never the power that bothered him, it was just merely the speed. So that's the reason why you stopped punching for almost 5 rounds, right, Brandon Rios? Because you were worried about the speed. So you basically telling me if you were in there with Pernell Whitaker, who has no power at all, you would have just stopped punching because he was so quick, but yet he had no power at all. Listen, man, the point I'm making is Brandon Rios knows that he was worried about the speed and the power. Speed is power. So, of course, you were dealing with or you were worried about his power mixed with his speed. You were worried about being knocked out. So, I mean, like I said, it's that tough man personality that basically prompts these fighters into saying the silliest shit. Like, oh, if I admit the speed bothered me, but I don't admit the power bothered me, then that makes me look more macho. That is the most dumbest fucking thing I have ever heard. This man, Manny Pacquiao, made you stop punching. Okay? It doesn't matter if you say it's because of speed or power. Manny Pacquiao put Brandon Rios in survival mode, something that no fighter has ever done to Brandon Rios. Now let's go ahead and move on and talk about a couple other things. Max Kellerman. Now, Max Kellerman, he said at the end of the fight that, trying to defend Manny Pacquiao, he basically said it was a good performance, but I don't think that Manny Pacquiao is as good as he was before. Why do you say that, Max? Why do you believe he's any worse than he was before? Why do you think he was any better before than he is now? You tell me, when was Manny Pacquiao this perfect machine? When was he a perfect machine? What, when he first fought against Marquez? It couldn't be, because that's when he had a draw, and that's when he was considered only a left-handed fighter. All right? Or was it when he had his rematch years down the road with Marquez, and he still struggled against Marquez? Or is it when he fought Marquez the third time and most people thought that Marquez beat Manny Pacquiao? We know it wasn't when he fought Marquez the fourth time when he got knocked out. So when was Manny Pacquiao better than he is today? Either Max Kellerman doesn't know anything about boxing, or really he does know and he just acts like he doesn't know to basically try to save face when it comes to Manny Pacquiao. Listen, man, Manny Pacquiao is better today than he ever was in his career prior. You don't believe me? Go back and compare how Manny Pacquiao looked against Marquez in the fourth fight right before he got knocked out, as opposed to how he looked in the first 3 fights. Okay? And then you compare this performance that he just had against Brandon Rios. This is a more complete Manny Pacquiao than any other Manny Pacquiaos that we have seen in the past. So like I said, I thought this was a great performance for Manny Pacquiao. He showed some flaws, as he does in all of his performances, but overall, when you consider the fact that he was completely knocked out to where he looked like he was dead, and to come back and have that kind of performance, get caught with clean, flush shots over and over within at least the first half of the fight, that is an impressive victory. All right? Moving on, let's go ahead and talk about what should be next for Manny Pacquiao. I think it's obvious what we all want to see. And like I told you guys before, I think this fight is coming close to being done sometime in 2014. Who knows? Maybe Mayweather was waiting to see the results of this fight, and maybe he wants to make this fight. Mayweather is not a dumbass, and he doesn't reveal what he's thinking, but Mayweather knows that this is the biggest fight to be made. Another intriguing fight would obviously be against Tim Bradley. As you guys seen, I talked to Joel Diaz, and he told me that that is the main fight that he wants before he retires as a trainer. And Tim Bradley, he feels the same way. I was surprised Manny Pacquiao called out Tim Bradley before, but after the Marquez win, Manny Pacquiao, he didn't use this opportunity to call out Tim Bradley now. So we'll have to see, guys, what happens in the future. I'm on to the next one.